I can give you instructions.
Okay.
Matter of fact, he said even.
Yellow or insertions, things that he said that I thought were important that should be added.
Okay.
These are additions, these are deletions. And these were types of
I
additions.
don't understand, so.
Okay. Was, this following,
Well, you didn't object to what she said.
so this,
Well,
these
I
are new
don't
revisions
remember
to Kevin.
Kevin saying anything.
Well,
Did Kevin add these?
Change of ownership and the transfer stations that some
Then I'll print
of
those out.
folks
and that,
have raised, whether
Oh, so
Yes,
these are revisions
we
to
did,
this
and then I talked to
draft this morning.
Sam,
Okay,
that's
so revision
about
is
it, we
revision.
both agreed that it's
Right.
not a,
it doesn't have ownership.
no.
get rid of this.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure I'm on
Yeah,
track.
Right, and
Let's
then
do
I made
that.
it reasonable, because like I said, if it's insertion,
It's that one
it's
here.
yellow, if it's.
I said, I couldn't believe some of this on one line item, I don't remember you saying anything at all, like what's highlighted.
And broad.
Okay, perfect.
Let's see.
Those are my.
Unfortunately, that's where it's coming.
Steve Field, you don't want $50.
Did find out.
He read off quick right there, he didn't think long.
It's not 6 o'clock yet.
That's right, that's right.
He didn't think about it long.
By the way,
Those were before his revisions. Just wanted to make sure.
so. I'll show you mine. Had two corrections on mine. I don't think that's supposed to say $200. That ain't right. You need, she was going. Adam? Adam?
Yeah, you getting called to the front.
From now.
Yeah,
You go to something,
yeah.
replacement.
No, we can start them, and we only did 12 on that.
Yeah, for a couple of months, I will.
We just take off the cost. We have the last one for them.
Just making sure.
So I can send them down, I'll spend them, we could come out to this one, this one, we carry it for 2 more months.
Alright. Did you have anything you needed added?
One statement. To add to this chapter. Steve has requested. Minutes.
Do you know how I got there?
Sunhouse, that has been moved to the college requirements, Santa, funding the phase closure. Mr. Johnson indicated very much the Santa will be responsible for preparing for the phase closure.
Who's where?
That's just an addition to add that in, it's not in the draft.
Okay, so do we need to say that? You were just forgetting.
Yeah. Great.
All right, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Our opening of the meeting, Barry, will you lead us in the pledge of invocation?
Absolutely. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's pray. Dear God and Heavenly Father, it's again we come asking you to look down on this commission. God, give us knowledge, give us wisdom to make good, sound decisions. Also, God, as we come into the season of Thanksgiving, let us remember the season to be giving, God, blessings to all. Bless those firefighters, policemen, first responders, and all the emergency personnel. Keep them safe every day. And these things we ask in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Next on our agenda is the approval of the minutes. So since we have not approved the August minutes, we need to go to the August minutes first. I think that we got the correct, I believe we had the corrections to the August minutes.
Madam Chairman, are you going to vote on these individual or?
Yes, we need to vote on these individual because there are some corrections to the September.
I make a motion to accept the August 10th meetings as is.
Second.
We have a motion by Larry and a second by Mr. Fields. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to make a notation that with the corrections I submitted to Attorney Stevens, he has that copy, and he also has the copy that I sent him in Word, so he has both. What I spoke of at the meeting that weren't in the September minutes,
We're talking only
We're only
August.
talking about August.
that's what I'm talking about, is that I submitted the corrections to him, and he has both copies. That's the only notation that I want.
Okay.
Okay. So I know, Ms. Hunter, you were gonna email them all to us, but you instead emailed them to, Mr. Stevens,
I know.
August.
I sent them to Mr. Stevens.
Okay.
And those are excuse me, those are incorporated in the drafts that were circulated for this evening.
Yes. So is there any more discussion on those, any corrections to the August anymore? If not, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. All right, we have our approval for our September minutes, before the meeting started. As we'll note that Ms. Hunter handed out the corrections that she felt were necessary. I believe she told us that the things that were in yellow needed to be added, and the things in red needed to be deleted, yes. Okay.
I think I gave everyone a copy with the exception of maybe the three gentlemen in the back, and I have only one copy left, if you'd like one.
Fine, I'll read off Shelby's.
Okay, I gave one to,
I got it.
There was also, one
Do we
more.
need a motion and a
Yes,
second?
yes,
We
please.
need a motion and a second, so then we can discuss the corrections.
I make a motion that we, accept Pat's changes on the September 14th meeting.
Second.
Well, that we should- I don't think, what we need a motion first is for approval of the minutes, and then,
Take these as
Then-
That's discussion.
further discussion.
yeah, and then we do a discussion on Pat's changes.
Okay,
Just trying to get those quicker, Hillary.
let me tweak this.
Sorry.
Let me make a motion to accept the minutes as written at this time for the September 14th meeting.
Okay, and a second.
Second. Sorry.
Okay, Art got a second. Alright, so now we have discussion on, now we can discuss on Pat's, I have correction myself that needs to be made, I believe. On the third page. 1, 2, 3, third paragraph. Correct me if I'm wrong. Additionally, the tire price will increase. I don't know if you're listening to $5 per tire for semi-tires and $200 per ton for anything larger than a semi-tire.
That should be tire,
Per tire.
per tire.
Per tire, not per ton.
Yes, that's per tire.
I was getting all excited per tire.
Okay.
Okay, so
The
there is.
other way, it'd be, we get more money if we do it that way.
Alright.
Per
Per
tire.
tire.
so we're striking ton and substituting tire. Is that correct?
Yes, right after where it says $200 per.
And on the corrections that I'm making, rather than read them, I brought everyone a copy. And everything that is in yellow highlighted, like on page 2, I felt those were important points that the attorney made and should be included in the minutes. Anything in red, is a strike or to omit. And on the third page, it was a typo. It said charge and it should have said charged, so I bolded D and bolded T with brought, and it's just typos. And everyone received a copy.
There was one additional change that, Mr. Field, mentioned to me prior to the meeting. And he wanted to include in the, on page 2, at the end of the paragraph, end of the first full paragraph, he said he wanted to include a statement. Mr. Field asked Ben Johnson if under the new T-deck closure requirements, if Santec/Republic will be funding the phase closure at their expense. And Mr. Johnson indicated affirmatively that Santec/Republic will be responsible for paying the phase closure. That was a statement from during the meeting that he wanted to include.
Okay. You got all those marks?
I do.
Is there any other discussions? All right. You good?
Good.
Larry, good? All right. So we have a motion and a second to, approve the minutes
As corrected,
as corrected.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Hunter and a second by Art for the corrected September 14th minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. All right, ayes have it. September 14th minutes have, with the corrections, have been approved. All right. Says approval of November agenda.
I make a motion to,
Okay, I have a motion to approve the November agenda,
Second.
and I have a second by Mr. Fields. Discussion,
I would like,
go ahead.
I would like to add a couple of items under old business. Under old business, it should be, we were supposed to receive the top cash customers and tonnage. It was going to be 2 or 3 customers. So I would like for that matter to be followed up. Also, under old business, I had requested this a while back, the status of Dr. Bacchus's invoices, the itemized statements. I don't think we received anything, and I think Mr. The attorney was going to look into that to see what's
Okay.
happened.
We'll add those things.
And the other thing is, in the minutes, I had requested questions with regards to the executive session, whether those had been addressed, and I think the attorney was going to follow up. Remember questions that we had at the executive session
The questions that, the notes we took.
that you were going to look into? Some of them had to do with Dr. Bacchus.
Yes, I recall one specific question.
And the other thing is, last month, I believe, we approved the bylaws, and I had requested from the attorney to provide us with a signed copy for our manual, for our commissioner manual. So we can have it also in the public record at the county office building. We approved it, but we never received the formal document. That's all.
Okay. I have one thing to add under chairman's report. I have invoices. Number 2 would be, meeting recordings, and I'll discuss that when we get to it. there anything else? Okay. A motion and a second to approve the agenda with the changes.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hunter
Second.
and by Mr. Fields. Alright. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Alright. The November agenda is, approved with changes. Alright, next thing is items of public concern. Richard, that's you. Only one on the list.
Only one that shows up, I think. I have a question about the minutes, if you don't mind. In the first page, during Mr. Satterfield's conversation,
Are you going to September or August?
September, I haven't had a chance to look at the August yet. About the fifth line down, it says, Mr. Jameson stated for clarification that the negotiation in progress is not for a new contract but for an extension. Did you mean progress or process? Or did you actually mean,
What we were fixing to enter in.
well, this, the way I read it, you're already doing it.
Well, I guess,
Been doing it for 5 years.
yeah, I mean, come on, we're,
Okay.
the progress, we had just discussed in our meeting about re-entering the negotiations
Right.
for the contract extension.
Right.
And I haven't, if that's what I said, I don't know. I can't remember.
But you didn't mean that you're already doing the negotiations because you didn't even vote on them.
We had just in a meeting to start that up.
Right.
And that's meaning that. We hadn't been negotiating, so,
That's what I was trying to clarify. There was no negotiations before this meeting.
there wasn't no negotiations going on at that time until that meeting started, and we made the motion to proceed with the negotiations.
Mhm.
And I wanted Mr. Satterfield to clearly understand, it's not for a new contract, it's for an extension
Right.
on the present day contract.
Yep. I understand that part, Larry.
Well, you know,
I think,
If anybody would read it to me.
I think he was just trying to say that that's what we were about to do in that meeting. I think it was just, it's the wording.
And what we've been working on for 5 years.
yes, I mean, it's
I'm not
playing on words.
I'm not picking on you, I just, the way I read it, it
Well,
said you're already doing it. In progress.
if I sounded that way, I didn't mean it that way.
I know
Because
that.
the meeting,
That's what
we
I'm
had
trying to
just
get
had a meeting.
clarification.
to re-enter the negotiations for this. And again, I go back, what that whole statement was directed to Mr. Satterfield was to let him know,
And we
It's
were,
this, not that.
okay,
And I believe the last part of that sentence clearly states that. It's the
Okay.
middle part.
well,
And I think he understood it. I did anyway.
I talked to him after the meeting.
Yeah.
And we had a little chat about that,
it's much
and I
better.
think he clearly understood it.
Right. I'm just picking on that one word because we tend to,
Draw a line through it and move it to another word. That's all I'm gonna say.
okay. To do my public presentation. Open records. I've been asking since last week to get copies of both the August and September meeting minutes. It's kind of difficult to be prepared to talk about anything in this meeting.
Well, I wanna address it for you. Because in our bylaws, it says nothing about putting draft minutes on the website. Says adequate written minutes shall be kept recording the official acts and proceedings at all meetings of commission. Minutes shall be presented for approval or correction at subsequent meeting, and upon approval shall be signed by the chair or secretary and filed with the minutes of the commission. which shall be kept permanently. It also says in our contract that the contractor shall be also responsible for preparing a set of draft minutes of all meetings of the commission for submittal to the members of the commission prior to its regular meeting. The minutes shall be prepared in the form of it should be prepared in the form reasonably required by the commission. We have not been in any kind of format where we have posted the draft minutes on there.
Yes, you have.
Well,
Here's an example.
what?
There's an example. I brought it.
What's the date on that one?
This is July
July of what?
2020 of the one that I picked because I was looking for the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to look at the minutes.
So Richard, can I interrupt you for a second?
Thank you.
So I'm pretty sure that draft minutes were the minutes that were provided by Santec in the packets. And and I marked the draft because they hadn't been approved yet.
Right.
But
They're not posted ahead of time.
They were what were provided in the meeting packet.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not posted ahead of time.
Okay. Let me give you a piece of paper. Office of Open Records Counsel says you will not do that.
Well, I think I have something too.
You have a requirement. When those minutes become available to this commission, they're available to the public.
Well, for a point of clarification, the minutes were sent out to this commission yesterday at about 4 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay, so I would have liked them yesterday at 4 o'clock too.
The commission has 7 days to respond to your open records request. It's not gonna immediately send you any draft
And I will take
that's
it
not
to the
sent to the
office.
commission.
And I will turn you all in.
Good, go for it.
That's what needs to be done.
That's what will be done.
Good.
First of all, if I got them at 4 o'clock,
Excuse me?
if I got them at 4 o'clock, if I get them at 4 o'clock yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Do you know who posts them on the website? Thomas, okay?
Yeah.
Thomas leaves work at 4:30. I have no control over Thomas putting them on the website anyway. So if I got them at 4 o'clock, I can't just call up this person that works for the mayor and does his job over there and say, hey, put these draft minutes on there real quick.
Okay. Mr. Stevens, when did you get them?
Which iteration are you talking to? I'm still getting drafts from Pat as of tonight.
And when I asked you, when did you get the package from Ben?
The package from Ben doesn't submit a package. Draft minutes are prepared by our consultant pursuant to the contract. That does not become a public record because they are not staff. That's a distinction. You might want to read the rest of this
All right,
report.
we can debate this until the cows come home. You have an opinion, I have an opinion. We'll let the office decide.
That'd be wonderful.
Last month, when I made a presentation about financial, I got rudely interrupted by you. And you
Because
told me
your information was misleading and patently false, and I was going to correct
It was not
that.
patently false, that's your opinion, again.
No,
Or you
when
have-
you put numbers on a piece of paper, they're either accurate or
And
they
I
are not.
preferenced them that these were estimates, and they were based off of past history.
But had nothing to do with the course of the negotiations that we were undertaking, and I needed to provide
I
that
wasn't talking about
clarification
that. I
for
was
this
talking
commission,
about
for
what would
everybody
happen
involved.
If you projected current expenses.
While doing
current
nothing.
Revenue.
And what you were doing is misleading people because you were giving everyone the presumption that those numbers would be projected out through an extension and ignoring all of the concepts that we've been negotiating during that
No,
extension.
I said they were based on history. If you did nothing different, absolutely nothing.
Then the contract wouldn't have gone on as far as you put out your projections.
I also gave you 2027, which shows that you were at least 2 million short, even with the next 5.5 years, using the same numbers. My point being, you came back not 5 minutes later and said you had a concrete proposal or something to that effect that would generate $12 million for the community. in 5.5 years?
It would shift an additional $12 million, which we've talked about numerous times based upon estimates.
Just about. Have you got a spreadsheet on that?
We've only distributed it about 10 times over the course of the last 5 years.
Well, I would like a copy of it,
Okay.
please. That's my question. If you have something that's on a spreadsheet,
No, I don't have a spreadsheet, Richard.
you just written? How do you draw your numbers for 12 million?
The numbers have been discussed based upon the financial statements. And if you want to, yeah. Yeah, it's in Dr. Box's report. It's been discussed based on our perceived liability under our financial statements.
All right, I'd like a copy of whatever Dr. Box has put together that said that you would get $12 million.
There's not been a specific number put to that, and that's why I said approximately.
I would like to, I'd like to honor his request when you get it to
Yeah.
him, but I'd also like a document signed by Richard that he's received it and dated,
I'm glad.
going forward.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
I already addressed the other question I had, which was that particular word.
The what, sir?
The particular word on whether negotiations started before the approval.
What?
I'm sorry?
It's back to the, I said,
That was it would have been my third question, not my first question. But I wanted to bring it up because you were just talking about minutes and finish with that.
okay. Now, as far as turning us in and pursuing this, when do you plan on starting that procedure?
Excuse me?
You talked about turning us into the office on open records. When do you plan on starting that procedure?
Tomorrow,
Tomorrow? Okay.
in the morning. I wanted to give you a chance to see my documentation before I go off the other end.
Well, I think it's clear that that's where you're headed with this. So no matter what we say or do, you're gonna go down this path.
I wouldn't have done that had I got the documents. I've written to him twice.
Okay.
And
Well-
I've written to Anita twice. And she's caught in the middle.
Yeah, and
Just like-
it's
No,
not,
there's
it's not Anita's job
Right.
for that too. So I think from now on in that situation, I mean, because
Well, my original letter went to Mr. Stevens. And then I followed it up with a clarification.
the original went to you.
Anita wrote back and said, please send that.
No, you sent it to Anita, and then you sent me an email today.
I sent you an email today.
Yes.
I sent you one on Friday.
But your original request went to Anita.
As all records
No,
requests should go
both.
through Anita. I don't handle records requests. Everything goes through Anita.
And that's the trouble.
No, that's the process.
We put her in the middle because she has to contact whoever is gonna get them to her if they're not where they're supposed to be. And.
Because she's the custodian of records and has the records available to her.
She's a
Then that's the process
She's the
put in place by the
processor
county.
of that.
Correct. She doesn't make final determinations.
Right.
No. And I'm not blaming Anita for anything.
Well,
And I'm not blaming
I'm gonna
anybody for
back-
anything.
I'm gonna back up a minute on not blaming Anita, cause when you said in your email to Anita, and I could pull this up, quote. Aren't they supposed to be on the website by last Thursday?
My,
Or does the solid waste have different rules? Please advise. Thank you. As to Anita, Anita doesn't answer questions like
She should.
that. Not please advise. You're saying, Anita, please tell me, have the rules of solid waste changed? And my response when I saw that, I told Anita, I said, direct him to me or Kevin Stevens. Because it's not Anita. That's kind of, Richard, in my opinion,
hmm,
that was kind of just being a little bit on the ugly side. Or does the solid waste have different rules? Please advise. Thank you.
I made the presumption that you follow the same criteria that the county follows. And their criteria is to try and get them up by Thursday of the week before. That's why it was phrased that way. Are you not following?
I'm not
the same?
reading that in your email to Anita. I read it as that you are asking this of her. Aren't they supposed to be on the website by last Thursday? There's nothing said in that email right there. Or does the solid waste have different rules? Please advise. There's not a thing in there that says anything about county.
Nor does she have the authorization from the commission to respond for something of commission business.
Of this, yes.
I would like to offer a solution. If we receive the draft minutes, whenever, Monday, Friday, a couple of days ahead of time, can we not just send the draft minutes to Anita, and if anyone wants to see them, they can make a request from her or to her, so it can be.
I think that causes confusion, posting draft unapproved minutes. That's my.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good example what
We
you
got
brought
4 sets of
tonight.
them, yeah.
I mean, this is a very good example that you brought, and it was a draft of this commission for tonight's meeting. And I understand what you're asking about, but we have not approved those minutes, nor have we approved them to be put on the website
And
at that time.
first of all, you have been the one who said, we've got to have accurate records, accurate records, accurate records. If we've got three sets of draft minutes going, and 3 sets of draft minutes that's gonna be in the records, you know, I see a problem here, which we have had, where records have been thrown out, and then they have a scrap here and a scrap there. And what happens if we get part of those draft minutes in scraps that's not approved? We need the actual approval of draft minutes instead of scraps, or instead of 3 different drafts in a packet.
Madam Chairman, that was the same argument that the Board of Education used. And they went back and forth like you're all doing right now. But it was decided for the public to get access to whatever is available, with the caveat of draft. Okay, it isn't done. The public can't use the draft and hold you accountable if something changed after the fact.
Please try to explain that to the general public.
Yeah, and for a number of years, our drafts have consistently been circulated the evening or afternoon before the meeting.
Exactly.
That has been our practice and policy for as long as I can recall. And so there's no mechanism in place to distribute them at that point in time.
Is it possible to back it up?
If the commission votes to do that, but again, it raises the same concerns and issues about having multiple sets of drafts that can all be misplaced, confused, and would not give a cohesive record of what occurred, particularly when it's now quite common for us to receive substantive draft revisions on the evening of the meeting.
I understand that fully. That's why it looks like this. If I at least had this,
But it only looks like that because it has been put in those packets. He sent those packets after we have had approval
Exactly.
of everything.
if you look at the county's website, your website, excuse me, on the left-hand side, it says packet material. On the right-hand side, it says approved meeting minutes. So the packet material that is going to all of you ahead of time should be available to the public.
Well, that's for this commission to vote on and decide.
Let me ask
The
you a
packet
question.
the packet showed up this evening.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
The packet showed up this evening.
Mhm.
May I say something?
But I've heard you all ask Ben, and I don't recall what he said, can we get those earlier? I think somewhere it's written that they should be done within a week or 10 days after the current meeting. so that you all have time to look at it.
I think we're
Don't
still
see
missing
any
the
of
point.
that in here.
I
I
think we're
read
still
about the
missing the
minutes
point.
and I still read the contract. That doesn't say that.
So there's parts of the packet that you can get fairly early, but like the financial statement that comes out of, the finance office,
Which has been late before.
We got to that.
which we normally get the day maybe ahead of time. So there's parts of the packet that are available sooner.
And the
I mean,
rest-
one of the points that we debated when we were talking about changing the meeting place was also the meeting date to potentially allow more time for the packets to be pulled together. The board decided to keep the same date, it just shift the location
Yeah,
and
it
change.
was the same argument that the planning commission used to change dates, because they wanted to get information out sooner. Otherwise, it was a month later. In this particular month, we got 2 sets of minutes, and it's very difficult to even remember what the heck was said back in August, let alone September, and we missed our.
I have a real hard problem with putting anything on our website that we haven't voted on, and draft or any other thing.
Well,
Now, making it available when you walk through that door for this meeting, that I can understand, putting it there, because you would be here. Yeah, the general public would be here to hear it discussed before voting on and making those changes. And that's the only thing that I, as this commissioner, will be comfortable with.
Okay,
And unless until there's a motion that is properly seconded and voted on and approved by this commission, we're gonna continue the same process that we've had in place. Now, if the commission has a motion and decides to change that process, then we'll address it.
well, that was my request, and if you choose not to do it, I'll live with it, okay? I'm not trying to be, disagreeable just for the sake of being.
Well, you've already threatened to turn us into the state, so I would
Exactly.
categorize that as disagreeable.
Yes.
We'll just agree to
May I-
disagree on that one.
May I say something, please? May I say something before we end this discussion? County Commission puts their draft minutes and their packet on the website before the meeting. That's been their practice for years. I've been going to meetings for umpteenth years, and that's what they've done. The Planning Commission does the same thing. I'm on their thread, and I receive their draft minutes, their agenda, and their packet. So it's customary for, at least the school board does the very same thing. The school board did have a problem, and they put draft to make it perfectly clear that these are in draft form, and they're subject to change, and they put their draft, and then they put their approved minutes, so if there are any changes, the public has an opportunity to see the difference. And I think that's a good way to do it. Personally, I believe in transparency, and if we could provide the minutes.
And we are working not with one group here though. We do our meetings in conjunction with Republic and Santec.
That's true.
And they do the minutes along with their regular job responsibilities to do. So it's got to go through Republic and then to us.
Right.
So that's a whole different ballgame than the county. Tammy at the county takes care of all of that. She makes sure that everything gets done, all the packets, all the information, everything is done, ready to go. That's her job for the county, and she does that and sends it straight to Thomas, and that gets done in form that way. So does the Board of Ed. They have somebody in charge, that's all they do, that's what they do. They take care of all of that, it gets done ahead of time. All right? This is two boards here working together to get that done. I think there is a difference in that.
Well, there is. At some point, the draft minutes pass from Republic to Mr. Stevens. And at that point, they could become available to the public and simply put draft. And if they want to, not maybe if the.
But he's saying ahead of time. He's saying the week before. Y'all want them on that Thursday to make sure Miss Brewster's got
Well, I
that
don't
agenda put up to that Thursday before.
I think that the only action that I can remember happened back with Mr. Field, and I think it was a suggestion made by Mr. Stevens to get the agenda ready. Wednesday or Thursday, Steve, before the meeting? At least that's all that I recall. But if it passes from Republic to Mr. Stevens, we could make them available if somebody wanted to see them in draft form. That's all I'm saying. And we're always going to have the approved minutes on the website. So there's no confusion about what someone received in a packet as opposed to what was actually approved and posted on the website. So there's always going to be a distinction. And I guess I'm just from the side of the public that always believes that we are always transparent, even if it means.
I'm on the side of the public too, and I'm always transparent, and I'm trying to be, but I'm getting really frustrated and aggravated. It seems like every meeting, there's something. We
I
got
spent 45
something
minutes
wrong.
talking about the
I
minutes
agree.
and nothing of
I
substance.
agree. It is very discouraging. We have one
Yeah.
person from the public here, and Miss Hunter, that seems to, everything is an issue every time I come in and sit down in one of these meetings, whether it's one word or not. It's very discouraging. It makes me want to get up and walk out. And I'm sorry for going off, but I'm frustrated with this. We can't move forward for arguing among ourselves.
It's not really arguing amendment.
We've got some substantive business to take care of tonight, and we didn't need to spend 45 minutes talking about the minutes.
And this really, I'm moving on. If there's not a motion on the floor, I'm moving on. Is there a motion on the floor? All right, I'm moving on. Attorney's report, update on Second Amendment negotiations.
Okay,
Well,
Yep.
I'm sure this will be.
Kelly and I had a meeting on October the 4th with Mike Klassen and Randy Dixon. Mike is in charge of all the landfills, and if you want to stand up and introduce yourself, maybe briefly kind of tell everybody what your role is with Republic.
Sure, absolutely. Pleasure to, I'll come up and introduce myself after the meeting, so pleasure to meet you all. In advance of that, my name is Mike Klassen. I'm a general manager for Republic Services here in Middle Tennessee, and kind of all of Tennessee for us. So Republic is kind of split into hauling and post-collection, which is our landfill facilities. Really let us do, really dial in on the pieces of the business that we're experts in. So my background, I've been in solid waste my entire career. I recently was with Republic out of Atlanta, kind of managing all of our solid waste facilities, engineering and environmental compliance for the entire Southeast United States. And most recently kind of took over as general manager. I sit in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where I have Middle Point Landfill there. We have we have Bradley County Landfill, and then also Sand Valley Landfill by Fort Payne, Alabama. So all those facilities kind of roll up to me. So Matt Dillard, who I know many of you had talked about, still manages our hauling side of our business. But I'm responsible for the sort of post-collection side, all the landfills and transfer stations. So it was a pleasure to come up and meet with y'all there in October. It feels like the month of October just got absolutely away from us. I'm sure you guys all felt this as well as the year keeps going on, but looking forward to kind of leading those discussions. And so, pardon my little bit delay also, just really getting spun up on the business and everything going here and some of the issues and the people involved as well. So pleasure to meet you, and I'll come by and say hello before the end of the night. Thanks.
So, thank you, Mike, and Mike was kind enough to come up to the meeting along with Randy Dixon, who I think most of you all have met, and Ben was at the meeting as well. We talked about the Second Amendment, of course, where things were left off when we ceased our negotiations, where things stood at the current time. There are a number of issues that we wanted to specifically raise, and this is following our own internal discussion and what we've been discussing over the course of the last few months in our meetings here. Of course, we feel like the overall structure of the proposed Second Amendment as it stood is appropriate, but there were a few specific issues that we felt needed some more attention. And a couple of those issues we talked about, and most principally, we talked about the stakeholder rate. That's a very important issue, obviously, for our stakeholders from a financial standpoint. So that was one of the key areas in the course of our discussion. Of course, every time we do a survey of our stakeholders, one of the very first
Stakeholder rate low.
stakeholder rate, keeping it low, is what the first thing we're going to hear from our stakeholders. So in trying to honor their objectives, that's remained a primary point of our discussion. In conjunction with that, we wanted to convey to the Santec Republic folks that not only is it important to keep the stakeholder rate low, but it's a real political concern to have any other rates that are below the stakeholder rate. And that's something that we talked through with those folks, and I think that we had a real good understanding kind of the dynamics there. So, you know, one of our suggestions during the course of that negotiation is to come up with a mechanism whereby the stakeholder rate is always going to be slightly less than whatever any other lower discounted rate may be. So that was certainly an important component of those discussions, and I think was understood by the folks from Santec Republic. We talked about you know, a couple of exceptions we looked at. You know, we tried to explore all the possible consequences of the stakeholder rate. You know, there may be exceptions if it comes back before this commission for approval for some alternative daily cover or some other type of disposal that this commission might approve a lower rate because there's a specific reason for it. But what we're hoping for from our perspective is that the stakeholder rate will remain as low as possible and also be as low or lower than any other rate at the landfill. We talked about waste distance limitations, and that's, you know, been a key point in some of our recent discussions. You know, we talked about, we've thrown around ideas of mileage limitations. We've discussed some ideas of in-state versus out-of-state. And that's, you know, something that what we wanted to emphasize is we don't intend to be a large regional landfill. You know, we want to service our stakeholders in the areas in the immediate vicinity. And I think Santec Republic understands that. And there's also the financial dynamic that doesn't make sense to bring in waste from, you know, some far out part of the region. So that's another component. We had discussed a 75-mile limitation, and that is under consideration. We discussed looking at how the daily tonnage limit is calculated, whether that's based upon a 30-day calendar or whether that's based upon an operating time frame of 22.5 days per month. So that's something they are looking at. We talked about the importance of better defining the soil borrow area from an engineering standpoint, because we want to make sure that, you know, it's been suggested that there may be some 60-foot pit that goes for 10 acres, and that's not usable land, and that then detracts from our buffer property. So we talked about how we need to go through some engineering to really hone in on how we're going to be using this borrow area property, the sequencing, and the volume that's going to be associated with that. So that was an important topic. We talked about wanting to keep a ridge line in the buffer area because there's an important ridge line that we think needs to remain there so that our neighbors don't have the same or diminish their view shed. So that's in part of the engineering. We want to keep the land usable so that there's not a giant hole, but at the same time we want to keep the visual buffer because that's an important component of why we purchased some of the adjacent property. So those are a lot of the issues that we really spent time discussing. I think, you know, again, everybody still felt pretty comfortable about the broader objectives that we've been negotiating over the last 5 years or more. And we didn't really get into those components, that being Santec Republic handling all closure, phase closure, that there would be a specific timeline of the phase closure, there would be a bonding of the phase closure obligation, and we didn't address any further the financial parameters that we had already negotiated. So we really focused most of our discussion first in getting to meet Mike and getting to know some of the decision makers and folks that we'll be working with at Santec Republic, and then focusing on these last points that we think are important and that have been raised by all of everyone on the commission as being important for our stakeholders' benefit. So when we left, we had kind of put out some ideas and suggestions on those various components, and Santec Republic said they would take it back, go back to corporate, discuss internally, and come back with a response. I know time has passed rather quickly and we don't have that response yet, so nothing new to report other than the issues that we addressed and the concepts that we proposed, and we're waiting to hear back from Republic about how best to address those.
And he highlighted, Kevin Stevens just kind of highlighted for you everything that we addressed. I know that in our meeting, we went extensively into how we would address that, and we did. We both did. We tag teamed well on that one and made sure we covered those areas correctly. So I don't want to leave anybody to think that that was it.
Yeah, it was a lengthy meeting,
Yeah.
but those were definitely the highlights and the most important concepts that we covered.
What's the expectation on Santec getting back to us?
That's a great question. With the holidays coming up, just realistically, we at Republic just have a little bit, we're a huge Fortune 200 company. We have certainly a lot more that goes into the economic modeling and the longer term evaluation of facilities and of the business decisions. So that's kind of where we're sitting at now. We're also just picking up sort of the engineering side of it too, right? So Santec had done quite a bit of work and had something presented to TDEC related to the details of the expansion. And we're really just dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that there's no fatal flaws associated with that technically, because the last thing we want to do is enter into a contract with y'all or extend a contract with y'all committing to a certain life of the facility and then have TDEC come back and say, oh, but you didn't actually do these parts and we can't extend it to that point, right? So I think that's just something we want to make sure that we're putting all of us on solid ground to move forward with. And so those are the two things that we're working on right now. I would say, our timeline is to push this very hard by the end of the year, and then to be able to circle back with some real solid details and be able to, I think, move relatively quickly right off the first of the year. It's kind of what we're looking at from that timeline standpoint.
Thank you for that statement, but I also understand we've been at this 5 years. And getting that pertinent information back, and I understand getting your hands wrapped around it and getting back in, but I think it's very important that we move rather quickly. At least by the December meeting, at least having us somewhat of a progress report from where you're at.
Certainly, no problem at all. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think we would be in a position to do anything definitive, but happy to present something as a progress report on where we're at, the progress we've made, so y'all can see. We want to move quickly too. Having, as you all know, there's an airspace need for a new cell to be constructed. There's details about that cell which is slated to be built early next year. There's details about that cell which could vary based on the specifics of the expansion. And so, there's things, we have to finish the design, we have to bid it out, we have to get it constructed, we have to get that airspace available, and that's all very important to accelerate, and that has to happen right off the bat in 2022 as well. So
I thought that had been done, Ben. Some of the,
They're using their
There,
engineer.
no final design is done, no design that you could hand to a contractor and say, give us bids for this. Is finished. There's
a conception type has
There's
been.
a permit level design that's done, but again, what's been submitted to TDEC, sort of modifies that permit level design. Back in 2012, I believe is when it was submitted. As a matter of fact, the folks that signed it and stamped it as engineers now work for TDEC and will be the ones who are reviewing it. So a lot of people have changed seats.
Okay.
And again, I fully realize y'all have been at this for a long time, and I'm sure the fatigue is real. And it's the last thing you wanna do to slow that process down. I'm with you, I wanna get it done, but I also wanna make sure that I'm not leading any of us down the wrong path, and we're on solid ground to make sure we make a good decision.
Well, I think the commission, and I'm speaking for myself as one of the commissioners, we have, like you don't want to enter into a bad extension, we want to straighten up some stuff that's pretty bad for us.
Certainly, yeah, certainly.
So our stakeholders deserve a better than what they're getting.
Yeah.
And I think it's only pertinent that you understand that our concept, we've lost money rather than made money.
Sure.
Maybe I should have said that, I don't know. Three hours.
Yeah, so, you know, certainly if we could have an update by next meeting, and in particular focusing in on those last, you know, issues we highlighted, I think that would be very helpful, to say what definitive progress we can make on those issues. Knowing that we already have a pretty good template in place for an extension, if we can hone in on those more detailed issues and get an update on that, that would be very helpful. I understand in particular the engineering aspect for the soil borrow area and some of that, you know, takes a little bit more detailed time. But certainly if you could hone in on some of these other issues with the stakeholder rate, the waste distance limitation, the days of operation and calculation of maximum tonnage, that would be very helpful for our next meeting.
Have anything else?
That's it for now.
Alright. Finally, cash activity report. Finally.
First is the landfill tonnage volume. The daily average for 30 days is 383.20 tons. The 22.5 day average is 510.93 tons. And next is the customer activity report, so you can review that. And next is the landfill inspection.
So to the next to the last page, we have that AOC on 8470 of, unsatisfied, satisfaction cover. That is, same as always, it's right there as we're moving our working face back. So, that had been. So if you remember on our last inspection, we had our ponds, she was putting on our ALCs. Since then, we have had our ponds cleaned by outside third-party contractors, so all ponds is back in full function again.
Next is the material classification report. We had 9,564 tons of MSW, 1,368 tons of special waste, and 541 tons of sludge. The total material was 11,496 tons, making that 83% MSW, 17% special waste, and 5% sludge. Next is the waste characterization report, and we can review that. Next is the landfill tire report. In October, there was 13.22 tons.
Tires dropped off.
Is there a particular reason for that?
Trailer probably.
Really?
No, we had no issue with Liberty picking them up. But as you know, on October the 14th, our prices went up.
This is market driven.
So, you know, you can tell what happened between then and now.
I'll be darned.
Next is the airspace projection report. Our full date is November 2023, and our 3-month average is 11,398.
Hey, Adam, did you say it was the 14th that took effect?
Yes, ma'am.
October 14th?
Yes, ma'am.
But on here it says the month, it says October 21st, so it really hadn't been in effect very long.
So I know we skipped our last meeting, I think it was on we went from a month from that day, so it was September 14th on our last meeting.
This would be the one kind of coming up.
We went a month from that day.
I got you. This is October.
So
We
the
actually
new
put,
price had an effect for a whole month, is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that, I'm just making a short statement there, but,
Yeah.
the tires just dropped off tremendously, you know. The locals are still coming in with their tires, but they're not coming from all around anymore, I don't believe.
So you're not getting them from out of county, in other words.
That was the whole goal of stop trying to get them from other counties to come in for that price and just overload us with tires.
Yeah,
So again, the locals are still bringing them in, but, it's just the locals now.
okay.
We'll have a better idea of next month to see what, you know.
Yeah.
how it's gonna go.
They'll start showing up on the side of the road again.
We hope not.
That's what my biggest fear is.
Not
That's
your
what we're concerned with.
No, right down here on Prospect Road. A couple of years ago, we had a major dump down here on Prospect Road. And,
The police caught those people,
well, it was still an incident.
they caught them.
We had this bigger one in Lenore City.
They caught those people too, didn't they?
I don't know, it finally stopped.
But it still costed us to clean it up.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the goal we're looking for.
No, and I understand that, but the economy will drive people to do different things, to try to find alternatives. And, as you well know, there's people out here running up and down the roads, I'll take your tires away for $1 a tire to give it to me. And they run down here and throw them out on the side of the road. That's been done. So, just some food for thought.
So we'll see what happens.
We're gonna hope that doesn't happen. Go ahead, Shelby.
Next is the host fees and security fees. Our host fees were $12,773.82. The security fee was $16,128.57.
And I'll interject on this last, piece that was added. This is from the APR report, feedback showing the diversion, that Loudon County achieved, this past year, so.
Operations report. Done? Alright, so chairman report, I have just a few things. I will pass these down to you. I don't know, this attorney thing gets a little behind, but you know. Also, an invoice for our major payment of these meetings, and I guess the employee, as you would say.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll pass them both ways for you to look at. The second thing I had was meeting recordings. As you know, it's very helpful to have accurate minutes is to have our meetings recorded. And right now, the county has an issue with TV3. They're trying to work out some kind of arrangement for recording meetings. After talking with TV30, of course, our meetings were taken off the county list of recorded meetings. They cut theirs down to only the regular meeting times. I'm trying to get that changed. I think workshops should be on there. And I think other meetings such as this need to be recorded too. But as of right now, talking to Jared, I asked him to record this meeting tonight until we could get something done about it. Ms. Bivens has offered to learn how to record those meetings by putting them on YouTube for us. Except for the one situation like we have tonight, where she could not be here, and I'm having a little trouble getting her with her job and things, getting her hooked up with TV30 so that she could learn exactly how to put those on the YouTube and getting them recorded from the camera, which is recording us now. After talking to TV3, they said that they will upload, record, and do each meeting for $50 a meeting.
Hire
Which actually comes to, if we do 12 meetings, is $600.
'em. Hire 'em.
I will say this, you know, we do rotate off this board, and if by chance Ms. Bivens rotates off this board or anybody else, then they will have to learn how to do it if we just leave it in their capable hands.
I thought you said that Channel 3 would upload them for us.
They will, I'm just saying if you choose not to do that,
Okay.
because you've not made any kind of motion or anything, so I can't move in any direction. So, and I just wanna do whatever the board wants to do. I think it's helpful to Shelby, I think it's helpful to us, and that's also more documentation for our meetings. So,
Madam Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we hire them,
TV3.
TV3.
I have a motion to hire TV3 to record our meetings.
Record and upload.
Record
and
and
yes.
upload. Do we need to say for 50?
I'll second.
For $50, yeah.
Yeah, for 50.
$50 you a second.
We have a motion from Mr. Jason and a second by Mr. Fields. Any more discussion about it?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I submitted some information to a budget committee member, my district commissioner, Shaver. When this issue of TV3 came up during the budget process, County Commission approved $6,100 for the annual donation. In asking the school board to record their workshops, what I later learned was that they TV3 charges the entity $50 for recording and putting it on YouTube. I have asked Commissioner Shaver to look into this, because if it's $6,100 and it's $50, by my calculations, they should do 122 meetings. So every meeting that is county related should be recorded under that $6,100. He's going to bring it up at the budget meeting on Monday, because I feel all the meetings should be recorded, whether it's planning, whether it's county commission, whether it's a solid waste, anything that has to do with the county, I feel should be covered under that $6,100. So we may not have to pay $600, because I feel it should be covered.
Pat, have you ever seen the agreement between TV3 and the county as far as what exactly is in that agreement?
There's not an agreement for that. It is just where they make a donation to TV3 at $6,100.
Right, there's supplemental information that
Amber,
they
what does
submit.
Lenore City make a donation to? Do they do?
Yeah, we do an annual donation. It has increased somewhat over the years. I believe it's in the neighborhood of $3,300 currently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you getting your workshops and
No, just the council meetings.
just the council meetings? And
Yeah.
see, that's what they told me, was they were just doing the council meetings for Loudon County too.
And then, Chris,
Tom? Are you having your all done?
Well, there's a couple things going on here. One is, there's a difference between a workshop and a meeting. A workshop
Exactly.
is where votes are taken and actions are made that impact citizenry. I think workshops, you may disagree with me, I think workshops tended to be more of a free flow of information where ideas are explored without any undue pressure. Another thing you need to understand, this is the second point, is that TV3 is a
is a legacy entity that's funded by cable dues. And cable dues decrease every year
Right.
as the cords are continuously cut. So if you commit to the Cable 3 concept, then stakeholders will have to pony up more and more and more over time as the cable subscriptions subside. Can we come up with a different concept? Sure. City of Chicago taxes Netflix. You know, will we get to that? I don't know. But there's all sorts of solutions. You know, it's all about recording the voice and getting the words down in some sort of memorialized format. We can do that with various recording devices. We explored that in a workshop at a city council meeting about exploring microphones that are on automatically versus that can be muted by the push of a button of an elected official. So, I mean, it's just all over the board.
And ours is on YouTube.
Yeah, I know yours are on
Yeah.
YouTube too, so.
Madam Chairman, I think there's an urgency to get our meetings recorded and get it out there. At $50, I don't think that's a great loss. Now, if the county can negotiate something to take in us as a package, but I think, you know, I made this motion based on what I'm hearing right now, and I think that there is an urgency to get these meetings recorded and uploaded.
I'd have a tendency to agree with you, even if he brings it to the workshop, it's gotta go through commission to be voted on, and by that time, we're gonna be back around to another meeting too.
Be in
So-
January before you talk about it again.
Right.
Being careful.
Just gotta go from a recommendation.
And this isn't a contract, this would just be, you know, we
It's
just
for
say we need
service,
to start doing it, and if for some reason we wanna stop, there's no term that would be required, I don't believe.
Is that correct?
Well, I can check.
It ain't a bad deal in the short term.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't think so either.
I mean, for us, it's just a service. Essentially, it's an extra service they do for us.
Right.
I control like the camera itself and the mute. I have a little mute button. I can cut it off. You know, those little speakers right there.
Yeah, well, they control
But
too.
Chris and or his assistant, you know, works their studio. So
Yeah, I know, that's,
How
I mean, it's
quickly,
pretty simple.
how quickly after a meeting and a taping session do you executive post it?
Immediately.
oh, by the way, you're on YouTube right now. Cause they're recording us now, and it's going live right
Maybe
now.
viral.
Yeah,
There it is.
Yeah, it's live.
it's live.
I've tested it. I've sat there and watched.
I have too. I've been there, so it is live. Alright. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? It has to do with money.
Mr. Jameson,
Aye.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
Ms. Brewster, Chair,
Aye.
Mr. Stewart,
Aye.
Ms. Hunter,
Aye.
unanimous.
Yes. I will contact TV3 and let them know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alright, old business Ms. Hunter had for her first stop, it was, top cash customers, and Adam, I think you were gonna address that for me,
I am,
cause I brought that back up to you.
initially, we started with the 1 month, and then I asked the lady to stop, so we'll pick back up and carry for the next 2 months on your gas customers to give you a better idea of what's what. So, starting back tomorrow, she'll get the rest of the half of this month and the next, say, 2 months of the cash customer reports.
The top three,
The top three, we're just.
kind of what you were talking about.
Here's the top 3 for September.
We had the 1 month of September, but I never pushed forward for October.
So these customers don't have accounts, price contracts, anything like that?
Nothing.
So it's coming in under the cash gate rate, correct?
Yes, sir.
Why is it they don't want an account?
Well, with Santec, we had a monthly tonnage cap that you had to perform before we would give you an account.
Okay,
So saying that, some of these guys may subject to be on, account next month. They choose to be and they pass all of what we ask from them, so they may have an account next month.
I got you. You start them out for a trial run and see how they do, basically, right?
Yes, but they have to make the credit checks and the whole.
Right.
Yeah, because if you take a credit card,
Alright.
they have to pass a.
Yeah.
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 You might lose your business the next month, Larry, if you went in there and did that and.
I'll run that.
Questions? All right,
I have a question. Wasn't there a specific company that we were checking on with regards to their tonnage and
They
their?
wasn't a specific company we was checking on, they was a specific company we was asked about.
Yeah, I asked
Yeah.
about.
That would be, the Brewster.
Where would they be?
Ma'am?
Where would they be located on this?
They're not in the top three. They're not.
Oh, they're not the top three?
I'll get a status on Dr. Vargas.
Dr. Bacchus, I sent him an email inquiring about his invoices for services rendered, and he did not respond. So,
Means
if he's,
it's free.
yeah, if he's not in any hurry to invoice, we shall not be in any hurry to pay.
Wow.
Okay,
I
Mr.
mean, he traveled all the way from
I'm not saying he's not gonna try and submit an invoice, but
It's not
he
submitted.
doesn't have a history of being real diligent in invoicing.
Okay, because I thought that was strange. He traveled all the way up here and we approved his travel.
Didn't seem to be
And he
in a hurry.
hasn't submitted an invoice.
No.
Didn't need his money that fast, I guess.
As he provides one, I will certainly forward it along. The other question,
Just as a point of reference, I had to prod him regularly
this is-
to get an invoice.
yeah, that's
If
his,
he's looking
his
at
pattern.
me to prodding for an invoice, he's
Well.
kind of sadly
So
mistaken.
the thing to keep in mind as you're taking that position, and I understand where you're coming
It's a
from,
woman's.
is that at some point in time, you're gonna get an invoice and it's gonna be for months worth of duration. And then, are you interested to try to tease out exactly what was what is what it comes down to.
Although in this instance, his
I mean, his
services were pretty
pretty
limited.
low.
I mean, his scope of work's been fairly limited.
Yeah. But
I'm happy to follow up again with him. But
If
that's
you forget to send me an invoice, I'm not paying till you send me one.
correct.
he probably gets badgered more by his people internally
I'm sure
for not doing the billing than he
I'm sure
does
that.
from whatever pressure we're gonna exert, but again, Kevin's can pull some.
Happy to follow up. The other question, I believe, relating back to our special meeting, was a question raised about, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the question related to his calculation of the maximum permitted height elevation. There was some discrepancy. He acknowledged a mistake in that there was an error in the calculation of the maximum permitted elevation, which is actually, I believe, 1108, versus the proposed elevation that was associated with the previous draft permit modification at 1125. So he acknowledged an error in that, that all the calculations should be based on the current permitted elevation as opposed to what may have been discussed for 1125. And I think because that was submitted, many years ago as a proposed permit modification of 1125. He had that in his records as what he thought the permitted elevation actually was.
Did you have a chance to ask him about how much soil will be needed before the end of the contract? His calculation on that?
He didn't really have a firm calculation there. My guess is what he's gonna do is wait to see what Sandtech Republic provides and then do his own sanity check to analyze that.
We had
He gave a very rough number.
yeah, we had a very rough number from him, but we also had one from Sandec based on.
There's 1.1 million cubic yards.
Yes, 1.1,
I
that's,
think Exhibit G of that last draft had a rough estimate down there at the bottom.
And that was another thing that Republic Mike had talked about, that we talked about in the meeting, that you wanted to have your engineers take a look at it and your engineers to go over some of those numbers or figures, which makes perfect sense to me because you are a total new company versus Sandtek's engineers.
And we not only want to see, as we discussed, overall volume estimate, but we want to see a design for where it's coming from and the sequencing.
Yeah. Right.
Which you well know.
And then I will send you a reminder to send us the signed copy.
I brought a copy
Oh,
for
you did.
the chair to sign this evening, and then we'll circulate that and put that on the website.
All right, anything else?
you're not gonna ask Adam about the road?
Well, my next thing is new business. It has Adam's name on it, so I figured we could just berate Adam all we wanted to while he's up here.
So the new business is on the TARP fee that we're asking to, implement at the landfill is, it's a $20 fee if you don't have a TARP on your load when you come across the scales. To us, it's beneficial because, if you go up our haul road, you're not losing debris all the way up and we gotta go retrieve it. And two is, as they're coming into the landfill on the highways, they're not got debris going everywhere. So, we would
Like you're
ask to
thinking on
put
that.
that fee in, goes right back into everybody. It's not just a cash pot at the landfill, it goes back into our system.
But you need to explain it. Because you need to explain that you're talking about not trucks that are.
We're only talking about the vehicles that goes from our scales to the back working face. We're not talking about across from the scale. We have some yard boxes for, cars and trucks and people that shouldn't go to the back. So the ones that goes across in front of the scales will not be charged the $20 because they're not gonna lose debris from my scales to the yard boxes. It's just the one that goes from the scales again to the working face.
So basically, passenger car and truck that may be dropping off.
Yes,
something.
we're not gonna charge people that's going to the yard boxes $20. I mean,
And all the entities always come in tarped or supposed to be, anyway, or some kind of cover. over
Sometimes they set out on the road and they untar
They
it.
roll it
Some, they roll it back and they waiting on the scales to open. Go by there and see it all the time.
so we put the stop to everyone releasing their tarp at the bottom. They have to wait till they get to the workplace.
Oh,
This
that's
is
what
for
he's
a lot of
trying
the
to
people
stop.
that we receive in from all day long that comes in with these trailers with nothing on them.
Exactly.
They leave debris, God knows where they came from, but my scales up to the top, then we have to clean the roads, just constantly picking it up off the road, so hopefully this will earn them, a little respect for the landfill and the county roads.
So when you have somebody coming in that's not a regular customer, but they've got a load that should be tarped, when they're coming across the scale going in, do you guys remind them that they're supposed to have a tarp when they're traveling down the highway?
We have this, the signage, and if they've never been there before, they will get out of their vehicle, and Shelby is, pretty good about voicing her opinion about it.
Shelby tells them very nicely that next time you come through, be sure and get tarped up.
So you get one free before you don't.
Shelby's gonna get one free and take their name. I'll have your name, right, Shelby?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
for the simple fact that's of moving forward with trying to keep the debris off the road and in the landfill.
That's just our main goal.
That's good go.
Adam, do you
Yes, sir.
plan to have any kind of like before and after information about the effectiveness of that kind of charge?
Meaning what?
That is, if you've got a lot of waste now accumulating on the side of the road, but then you impose the $20 criterion, then the trash goes down. Do you have any way to kind of get a handle on that, to know that it's effective, doing what you want to do?
No.
I have a question.
I'm not following this question, but
Anecdotally, we could report back in a future month, say, hey,
Yeah.
things have been effective in the
Yeah, he's
policy.
saying, are you noticing, would you, after doing this, implementing this fee, is there any way to quantify and be able to tell someone, okay, we're having to pick up less debris from
well, we can,
these trucks?
yeah, by our daily logs of when we
Exactly,
have
of
to
what
pick the
you're
debris
having
up out
to
of the
do,
road.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I wasn't
You're like-
understanding the question,
yeah.
yes.
It could just turn into a good lessons learned that you could share with other operations, for example.
And rightfully so, we're gonna do the same thing in my other landfills as well, down in Bradley County. It's just so much work that, we have to do in the back and keep the day-to-day operations going to decide to run behind your trailer and pick your mess up. Because typically it falls out in the road and people go around and they don't, it's just to help operations out really from having to clean up behind somebody.
So did you say Bradley County does or does not have this TARP fee?
We're gonna have,
You're in the process of doing it?
yes, we have the same problems down there.
Okay. Is that the only other landfill that you manage?
That's just, yes, I'm just down there, yes.
It's very common, even $20 is honestly a steal for people. I mean, I would have no problem making $200, honestly. That's
Well, I
how-
understand it's the TARP law. I
Yeah.
mean, we
Yeah,
have a
it's
law
also a law.
that
Exactly.
says that,
Yeah.
that should be enforced by the police, by the deputies.
And before this topic comes up at a later date, later time, that $20, are we to understand that's going to the Santec operation, correct?
No, it's going into our cash. Shelby, can you help us out there? It's going into our cash collection. It's not going straight to us, that's what I'm saying. It's going to,
When I put a tarp fee in, it goes in just like a material. So it's going in just like if somebody brought in.
So we gonna get some of it?
We get our component.
that's what I'm saying. Nothing that we're proposing to add is benefiting just us. It's benefiting the yard as well.
Larry, look on the summary of the
Yeah.
customer activity report, you'll see TARP fees.
Yeah,
I don't think anything's in that box yet, but that will be where it will go, which will be a part of the revenue, overall revenue for the facility.
I just wanted a point of clarification and transparency, so that this don't come up 6 months from now.
Good thing.
Good job.
Thank you.
I have a question. Does this pertain to the front loader trucks too?
No. The front loader truck should already have a enclosed.
Yeah, but it's got a door that slides over.
Yes, sir.
Well, and the reason why I asked this, because, last Friday morning, I was on 321 at 5:30 in the morning, picking up after one of them. That's why I'm asking this.
And
Evidently, it dumped it on his cow and didn't check it, but it was just going everywhere. But you need to figure out a way to check those guys, because most of them do not close those top doors.
in that case, I would ask them to do it because trying to get up there, that would probably be unsafe for that particular driver
Yeah.
because there's no actual, safe way to get on top of that. So I would call their boss,
Well, I've dealt with this probably for 8 or 10 years, and as far as I can ever get with it, it's not my trucks. It's not anybody's truck.
Could you include that in your signage, maybe? Could you
Going everywhere.
include that in your signage coming in?
Happens in there, so.
What's that?
About all front loads have to have their door closed on top?
I can make a sign.
Well, I'm just asking, would that be reasonable to do that and since
I
the
could,
process?
I could, but as visual,
I don't want you climbing or anybody else.
I can't see that he's not got it unless he's got debris sticking out of the top. So I could make a sign and make sure that some of them do that, but as far as enforcing that part, Time they get to the landfill, they probably done lost everything they was gonna lose.
Until it becomes
Yeah.
a need to enforce, I think just having the signage up, putting the word out, we need you to have your door closed on top. Now, whether they do it or not.
So that's automated, it's not like something the driver gets up there and shuts? It's
No,
The
I,
front load goes back, the door opens and it shuts, and the driver doesn't know if it's open or shut, so I think that might be a hard thing to do.
mhm.
Um,
Well, I'm not asking for to climb up and audit that, I'm asking for just signage, please make sure. Cause they may have a malfunctioning and blowing trash out coming down 72.
Sure.
Uh,
To answer your question, Larry, yes, we can put the signage up for that part.
just please make sure that your door is closed on the front end loader trucks.
Yeah, to me, that would just be like an inspection of the truck, like before you operate the equipment, you would inspect certain, I guess, mechanisms of the truck.
All drivers are supposed to do that, any CDL holding driver is supposed to do that before they operate that truck. But as we all know, a good cup of coffee and the door open and they go up in it and they're going down the road and they're flying out the door.
Yeah. But to me, I mean, and I'm not an attorney, but the signs would mitigate some liability, I guess.
Yes.
It could potentially.
It would
That's probably
encourage,
about as far as we can really get, I mean,
yeah,
Right.
if we don't have a real clear way to inspect without, climbing up there, I think a signage is a good idea.
I'll have one made.
thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hall, how big of a problem has this been about? How big of a problem has
For
this
the
been?
tarp fees,
Right,
well, it's not so much as the front end trucks, cause they got a certain speed that they can only go up our haul road. It's more of for these little dump trailers and the roofing trailers and the routine people comes in. It's not so much as the big trucks, it is the small trucks and trailers.
okay. Are you going to?
And they have a
The
tendency,
load's not secure, so every time they hit a bump, everything comes out the back.
and they have a tendency to be out on the highway and they don't have tarp over it, and they'll hit bumps out there and things are flying off. This way, at least, you're trying to get them ahead of time. They know if they're going to Loudon, they better have a tarp on there.
State of Tennessee has a tarping law.
It's just so you know, it's not gonna be a one-time fee. If you wanna come in there 10 times a day without a tarp, you're gonna get the 10-time price. Instead of $20 each time. So if you wanna pay that fee,
Shelby says you get one, and that's it.
So are you gonna have the sign prominently displayed so people know
before
Ahead of
you
time.
access the scales,
that
there's,
before you get to the scales, if you
Yes.
don't have it tarped, you're going to be
Yes.
charged $20?
Yes.
So you will let
it's
the
not at the
customer?
bottom gate, it's before you drive up on the scales.
Okay, because
So
I
it's
think,
clearly on the
He
driver's
is doing
side.
it just like he did the other fee on the tires. He posted it ahead of time.
yeah, I think any fees that are going to be charged should be prominently displayed, so everybody knows before they hit the scale, this is what is expected. So
Well,
they don't get surprises.
he posted the tire fee before a month.
Yes,
He had it posted a month before it went into effect.
because we know people don't like surprises.
So have you charged anybody so far?
To answer that question, no,
Okay.
but we're going to,
You threatened anybody?
yes.
That's the one I was looking for.
You did answer.
Yeah.
Alright, okay. We, need a motion.
To approve
We
the
have
tarp
to
fee.
approve the tarp fee
I'll make a motion to approve the tarp fee
of $20.
of $20. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
One no. The tarp fee passes. All right. That's all I have for new business. That's all we had on the agenda. So I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
One question, when would the TARP fee go into effect?
What's the date?
The 9th?
So we would run it through it the 9th of next month. We already had our signage up. So we would postpone any fees until the 9th of next month.
Okay.
one other point. The road, Adam has done an excellent job, his crew,
He gave you every opportunity,
and I've been inspecting him daily.
I know you have, Larry, and the team out there has done a fantastic job over the last couple months.
The next complaint we will have will be the lime dust that's out there, sorry about.
When that complaint comes, you know the water truck comes.
Yeah. But they've done an excellent job of keeping the mud out of the road. Not one incident have I witnessed or seen, so that's a good job.
It is a good job. I would like to say that, I appreciate Adam and Shelby's hard work on certain things. I had a phone call about a situation that happened at the landfill, nothing major, nothing, was a person that was trying to figure out their account, and there were some charges and things, and Adam and Shelby did an excellent job taking care of that, and I appreciate it very much, so.
Thank you.
So, do I have any kind of motion to adjourn?
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn and also wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Second.
And motion is second to
Both
adjourn,
counts.
those in favor?
Both counts.
Adams, I didn't see you, sir.
Yep.
This is the dead.
Where's the third
It's just getting later and later, because we're out before 8.
Because I knew you wanted to come up.
We're
with
actually 15 minutes early.
Oh, yeah.
It does, it's the time change, it's early.
Okay.
What did I say?
Yeah, we'll take that. We'll take that. Go over that. Before our next. All right, thank you so much. Good evening.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Good idea.